And I invited a whole bunch of people, but a lot of them couldn't get off of work on such short notice. I didn't send a notice out until late last week, until we knew for sure where we were going to be. All right. First off, I want to welcome everyone here today. I want to thank y'all for coming. What I want to do now is to take some time and do a lecture that I do at the end of every class that I teach. It's a lecture called 6 Rules to Live Your Life By. And the idea behind the lecture is that each one of us has, we are graduate students, we are professional people, we're managers, we're CEOs, we're different people. But one thing we have in common is that we are attempting to manage, to be leaders, to grow ourselves both personally and professionally, to become better people. Well, part of being a better person is learning that you need to have a set of rules that you live your life by. You need to have a set of guidelines that are going to guide you throughout your life, whether it's in your professional career, in your personal life, in your relationships with other people. You have to have these rules. If you don't have them, then what's going to happen is you're going to be buffeted by the whims of society. You're going to be waking up in the morning and looking at polls to see what you should believe and what you should not believe. So what we want to do today is we want to go through these things. There's 6 of them. We're going to go through them. If you don't have your own set of rules, feel free to use these. I own them, but you're welcome to have them. They're royalty free. So you can use these, and by all means, write them down. If you need copies of them after the lecture, we'll be happy to provide them. If you do have your own rules, that's wonderful. If you don't, start developing them. If you have yours and you want to add these, feel free. If these don't match up to the ones you have, that's fine too. Okay, everybody has to develop their own set that they're going to use throughout their life. So you want to work with these. I'm going to go through these, but you want to work with the ones you have and figure out what are the guiding principles under which you live your life. The first one says you'll never be happy with anything until you're happy with yourself. One of the problems we have in the world today is that people tend to expect external things to make them happy. If you look at society as a whole, we strive for money, for power, for prestige, for this, for that. We want to drive a fancy car. We want to have a big home. We want to do this. We want to do that. There's nothing wrong with any of those things, unless you are using them as a substitute for the fact that you are not happy with who you are. Okay? You have to learn to be happy with yourself before you can be happy with anything else around you. Life is a very straightforward event. The world is neither good nor bad. All right? The world is neither happy nor sad. The world simply is. How you choose to react to the world defines whether you are a happy person or an unhappy person. You hear all the time people talking about, well, are you a person who believes the glass is half full or a person who believes the glass is half empty? That is this rule in play. Can you look at an event and see the good, or do you look at an event and see the bad? It's entirely up to you how you choose to look at things. If you're not happy with the world around you, guess what? Change it. It's that simple. And people argue with me all the time, oh, you don't understand, I have this job, I have this house, I have these commitments, I have this, I have that. No, you don't. You have whatever you bring into your life. The things that are in your life right now are the things that you bring in. You will draw into your life the people, the places, and the things that make you happy or unhappy, depending on what type of person you are. Now, a lot of people argue and they go, well, look, everybody wants to be happy. Not true. Not everybody wants to be happy. It sounds weird, but a lot of people are most happy when they're unhappy. Okay? Ask yourself, am I an optimist or a pessimist? I have a very good friend of mine. He is the eternal pessimist. Okay? He refers to me as the eternal optimist. Because he says, you always look, no matter what the event is, you see the good in it. And they go, yeah, I like that. He goes, that's a horrible way to live. I go, no, actually, it's a pretty good way to live. He goes, no, he goes, I see, and I told him, I said, but you see everything, you look at, no matter what it is, you look at it and find what's wrong with it. He goes, yeah. He goes, that's a great way to live. And I go, no, that's a horrible way to live. He goes, yeah, but see, I'll never be disappointed. And I thought about that for a little while, and I went, yeah, but you also will never see the beauty in the world. And that's a really sad way to be. I'm willing to take disappointment in order to achieve beauty. Okay? I'm willing to risk disappointment in order to see greatness and be part of that. And that is part of who we are and what we define as what we are willing to be or not be in this world today. If you want to be happy with the world around you, look inside yourself. Figure out first and foremost those things that make you happy. If you can figure out the things that make you happy, then you can go out and draw into your life the things that make you happy. The people, the places, the things. If you don't like living in Dallas, guess what? Move. It's not that difficult a thing to do. My wife and I lived in New Orleans for 4 years. She didn't like New Orleans. I happen to love New Orleans, okay? In my hometown, all right? But she didn't like it there. And it's not a good place to raise kids. I mean, I love New Orleans, but it's not the best place to raise children. So we decided to move. And I told her, I said, pick a place, anywhere in the country. Put me within 60 minutes of a major airport, you can go anywhere you want. She wanted to come home. She grew up in Dallas. She wanted to come home. So we moved here. Now, here's the trick to it. We moved, I didn't have a job. Okay? We picked up, I was the chief operating officer of a company in New Orleans. I went in, I said, guys, I quit. And what do you mean, you can't quit? Yeah, I just did. I quit. Okay? And he said, why are you quitting? Aren't you happy? And I went, actually, I am. I like this job, but we don't want to live in New Orleans anymore. We're going to move. We're going to move to Dallas. And they said, well, we don't have an office in Dallas. I'm well aware of that. That's hence the reason I quit. Okay? So, and one of the guys said, he goes, I don't understand it. How can you just walk away? And I said, well, it all depends on how you look at things. You know, in one perspective, I'm walking away from New Orleans. In another perspective, I'm walking to Dallas. So, you know, I didn't have a job in Dallas. I did not have a job. But I also had no doubt in my mind that I would find one. Why? Because I don't really care what I do. As long as I'm happy doing it, then I'm okay. If it's washing dishes, that's fine. Okay? If it's being a college professor, that's perfect, because that's what I like to do. Okay? It took 6 months from the time I set foot in Dallas permanently. 6 months later, I had a full-time teaching position. That's how long it took. Right? It actually took 6 weeks from the time I landed in Dallas until I was teaching. I was teaching at SMU. But I had a full-time position teaching at the University of Dallas 6 months after I set foot here. I didn't, you know, this wasn't prefaced with sending out 1,000 resumes, working for a year and a half to find a job. It just simply was, hey, I'm moving, I'm going to put my faith in the good Lord, or, you know, you put it in whoever you want to. I put it in the good Lord, and I said, I'm going because I believe in my abilities, I believe in myself, I know I can do this. This is where I want to be, this is what makes me happy, I know what I'm going to look for. And I found it. And you can do it too. If you are not happy with the world the way it is right now, change it. So one of the wonderful things about this country is that you can be, have, or do anything in this country. If you want to be miserable, this country can help you be miserable. All right? If you want to be happy, this country will help you be happy. You want to see what's wrong with the world around you, you know, you gotta take a good hard look at this thing. You will never be happy with anything until you are happy with yourself. Focus there, and then the rest of the world will come into focus for you. Your box starts to become smaller and smaller, and you start to believe less and less. And guess what? You end up being very pessimistic. We go right back to number one, okay? Because you'll never be happy with anything, because you aren't happy with yourself, because you go, I'm stuck in this little bitty box. And everybody keeps trying to tell me that I don't believe the things that I believe. But then again, you really don't know what you believe. So here you are stuck in your little box. What you need to do is reverse it. Go back the other way. Learn new things. Listen to what people have to say. Engage in debate. Brainstorm. Husband and wife. Classes. Brainstorm. Talk to each other. People have forgotten how to talk. What we do is we have PowerPoint slideshows. See? So we don't have to talk. We can bullet list our way through life. What you actually have to do is you have to talk. And you have to think. And you have to come to a reasoned decision that these are the things that I believe. And then everything else is measured up against those things. Whether it's 6 rules, whether it's 5,000 different things, whether it's the Bible or the Quran or anything else. Whatever you choose to believe, those are your beliefs. Then everything else is measured against those. The trick is not to simply reject things because they don't match to what you believe. Because if you do that, you stop growing. And if you stop growing, you start shrinking. Okay? Nobody stays in one place. There's a huge misconception. Okay, I finished my degree. I throw all my books away. A good friend of mine, when he graduated with his bachelor's degree, he had a book burning party. And he burned all of his books. Okay? And I think right now he's probably like milking cows somewhere. I'm not quite sure what he's doing. But, you know, you looked at that and you went, okay, I don't think you're quite understanding what we're dealing with here. Okay? Working out the frustration, I understand. Okay? I understand the part of burning the books to get rid of the frustration. But the reality is that we have to continue to grow as people. We either are growing or we're dying. It's one of those two. You're not staying the same. And so what you want to do is, as you experience new things, you want to measure those things against that filter that you've created with all the stuff you know. And then as those things come in, you have something to compare it to. And that way you're not subject to looking at the headlines or looking at the polls for what you believe. You know what you believe. You may not believe the same things that I do, but that's okay. Because we can engage in intelligent debate. If you've ever looked at the internet, okay, and you looked at like a discussion thread on the internet, it basically goes, I believe da 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 da. Somebody else responds and says, well, I disagree because I believe da 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 da. The first person then responds and says, well, yeah, well, you're a jerk. And the next person responds and says, well, yeah, well, you're a, and then it goes to all these 4-letter words. Okay? That's not debate. Okay? That is not debate. And that's what happens when we don't know what we believe. When somebody challenges us, we react emotionally. And so we stifle the debate rather than having the debate. You must have the debate in order to grow as a person. So that, you know, every one of us lives inside of a box. It's called a comfort zone. The question is, how open is that box to new ideas, to new people, to new things? You know, and do you have the right filters in place to make sure that the things you let in are the things that are good for you, not the things that may destroy you? The third one says, you'll never be honest with anyone until you're honest with yourself. Of the 6 that I'm going to talk about today, this is the hardest one. Okay? So I have an assignment for you. I'm a professor. I get to do that. When you go home tonight, I want you to go in the bathroom. I want you to lock the door. Okay? This is important. Lock the door. Lock him out. Okay? Not out of the house. Out of the bathroom.
Thank you.
Okay? Okay. Lock the door. Stand in front of a mirror and try to be truly honest with the person that you see there. Don't stand in front of the mirror and go, hey, I look really good. Okay? And don't stand in front of the mirror and beat yourself, oh, I'm a horrible, horrible person. You know, somebody just throw me in the gutter. Don't do either one of those. Try to be truly honest with the person you see there. It is very difficult to do. But the reality is that when all is said and done, the only person that you have at the end of the day to deal with is yourself. So get in front of that mirror and be honest with the person who's there. You want to be successful in your life, you need to know what your strengths and weaknesses are. It is absolutely critical that you understand these are my strengths and these are my weaknesses. Strengths are not necessarily good, weaknesses are not necessarily bad. You just have to understand what they are. They simply are. Then you put together a plan for how you're going to work on your strengths and weaknesses, how you're going to make sure that you enhance your strengths, how you make sure that you overcome your weaknesses. You look at your environment that you're living in, that you're working in, and you look at the opportunities and the threats that are in that environment. Simple SWOT analysis. You've all heard of it. Okay? The question is, how many of you have ever done it? Especially on yourself. But it's a very simple thing. You look at the opportunities and threats that are in the environment. You ask yourself 4 questions. How can I use my strengths to achieve the opportunities that the environment is presenting to me? How can I use my strength to overcome the weaknesses? How can I use my strength to overcome the threats that the environment has? Next 2 questions. How do my weaknesses keep me from achieving the opportunities that are currently being offered to me? And the last one is, how do my weaknesses magnify the threats that are in the environment? Answering those 4 questions and truly understanding your strengths and the weaknesses that you have will tell you where you are in the world at this point in time. And it'll lay out a roadmap for you for how to move yourself to where you want to be, to move ahead, to go the places you want to go, to make sure that you're not tripped up along the way, to make sure that your ego doesn't get in the way, which is one of our biggest problems. Because the problem with ego is it blinds us to our weaknesses. And if our ego gets big enough, we can't see any weaknesses. We think we're perfect. Well, we aren't. Okay? So we have to understand that the weaknesses are there, and we have to work on those. And a lot of times, weaknesses are nothing more than strengths in reverse. I'll give you a good example. You know, one of my strengths is public speaking. Okay? I enjoy talking. I like to talk. I like to teach my classes and stuff. But it's also a weakness, because I have to be careful, because if I talk too much, I forget to listen. Okay? So I have to work on that and understand that and try to take that recognition and turn it into a strength. Try to recognize the importance of listening and make myself a good listener. And those things are important, and those are the things we have to do. But it all starts with being honest with yourself as to who you are and what you believe and what you do and what your strengths are and what your weaknesses are. And this is not a one-time event. The environment is dynamic. It changes all the time. Therefore, we have to continue to do this. You say, I had people come in and go, I heard your lecture 5 years ago, you know, and I still have my strengths and weaknesses that I did 5 years ago. That's a bad thing, okay? What I want to hear is, I've done 5,000 new versions of this, strengths and weaknesses and opportunities and threats. And I've grown as a person. And I continue to do this. I do this. I write this stuff down. At worst case scenario, I write it down at the beginning of every semester and at the end of every semester. Okay, best case scenario is I'm doing it once a month, once a week sometimes. If I'm having a really, really hard time, I may be doing it every hour. Okay? You just got to keep writing them down. You write them down. You don't just tell them to yourself. You write them down. There was a study done at Yale University, a long time ago, I guess in the early 70s. And they took a graduating class at Yale University, MBA class. And they had them write, they asked them, how many of you have written goals for what you want to achieve in life? And of the whole class, about 3% had written active goals. People that wrote their goals down on a continuous basis, you know, and knew what they wanted to do. They came back to them 20 years later, and they asked them again, how has your life turned out? How have you succeeded? What's your net worth? You know, all the basic stuff that goes with all that. Turns out that the 3% that had written goals, those 3% were worth more money than the other 97% combined. Isn't that amazing? Okay? We know this works. I'm living proof that this works. Okay? You need to understand it and embrace it and understand the importance of writing down your goals all the time. What is it that you want to do? What is it you want to be? Well, to do that, you have to be honest with yourself. You have to start with who you are today, where you are today, and move forward from there. The next one says, to see what's wrong with the world around you, look inside yourself. Okay, quiz time. Have you ever driven in rush hour traffic? I have. Okay, Dallas has rush hour traffic 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So you pretty much can't help it. Have you ever been in rush hour traffic, driving, you know, bumper to bumper, and just beating your head against the steering wheel? about how bad it is and just really aggravated, you know, and you're blowing the horn at the guy who's trying to cut you off, and you're trying to cut the guy off next to you, and you're waving at everybody with one finger. You know, we're not having a good day. You ever done that? Okay, everybody's shaking their head yes. I got it, I understand. Now, here's another scenario for you. Same scenario, okay? We're in the same traffic, different day, going along, good song on the radio, temperature in the car is pretty good. You relax, not real upset, you're just kind of cruising along in traffic. Traffic's bad, but hey, traffic's always bad, so you deal with it. You look out your window at the guy next to you, he's beating his head against the steering wheel, right? Blowing the horn, trying to cut people off, flipping everybody off. You kind of look out the window and you go, wow, what's wrong with that guy? Well, remember, that guy was you yesterday. You ever had that second scenario? So everybody's shaking their head again. Okay, so what has changed? What has changed? The scenario is exactly the same, right? The only thing that's changed is you. We're back to the half full, half empty question. To see what's wrong with the world around you, look inside yourself. If you're sitting here telling me that your job sucks, your family sucks, your house sucks, your drive sucks, your car sucks, blah, 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 okay, I'm here to tell you that there may be problems with those things, but those things are not the problem. The problem is you. Okay, you're not happy, okay? You have a problem, and you're externalizing that problem. You're looking for external things to blame. There aren't external things to blame. There's you. To see what's wrong with the world around you, look inside yourself. Start there. Figure out what it is that's aggravating the daylights out of you. You know, hopefully it's not your spouse, okay? But if it is, sit down and talk to them about it. All right? If it's your car, get rid of it. Get another one. Okay? If it's that big of a problem. You go, well, you know, cars cost money. Well, yeah, they do. Okay? If it's your job, quit. Go find another one. If it's Dallas, move. Okay? It's not that big a deal. We put the barriers. We put the limitations. We decide what we can and can't do. Not the world around us. We do. And once we make those decisions, we then draw into our lives the people, the places, and the things that make those decisions reality. We do that. We make those choices. And we, therefore, can make different choices. See what's wrong with the world around you. Look inside yourself. That's where the problem is. Fix it there. And everything external will fix itself. Okay? Fix it inside first. Do that. And the rest of the world will come into focus. You have to do the rest of these along with it. But if you can do that, if you can look inside yourself for what's wrong, you will fix the things that are wrong in your world. The fifth one says, believe in yourself if you don't, no one else will. I'm asked all the time about leadership. What is leadership? Who has leadership? Who's a good leader? Who's a bad leader? You know, what is leadership? Okay, what is it all about? Leadership's about a lot of different things. One of the things that leadership is about is balance. Okay? Good leaders, they know how to balance themselves. And they recognize when they're out of balance. And they recognize that they may have to be out of balance for a little while. But they deal with it. Okay? Leaders know how to manage their time. They know how to manage what they do. They understand the vital few versus the trivial many. And they focus on those things. But most importantly, leaders do not worry whether people are following them. True leadership is about figuring out what you want to do, where you want to go, making that decision, and then going. Leadership is not saying, I'm going to go over there. Okay, who wants to follow me? Okay, I'm going. Y'all come on. Y'all come on. Let's go. That's not leadership. That, unfortunately, is what we see a lot of today. But that is not leadership. Leadership is saying, I'm going over there. I've made my decision, and that's where I'm going. If I go by myself, then I go by myself. I have no problems. Boom, and I go. And I get there, and I don't care if I'm there by myself or not. That is leadership. Good leadership is picking the right direction. Okay? Good leadership is about picking the right direction. It's about doing your homework, about knowing what decisions that you're making and understanding whether those are good decisions or bad decisions, and understanding what the ramifications are going to be, and then going anyway. Okay? Because you say, that's where I'm going to go. I've studied it, I've looked at it, that's where I think I need to be, and I'm going to go over there. And if you do that, people will follow you. It's a sad state of affairs, but most people are sheep. Most people want to be led. They do not want to lead. That's good for us, those of us who are leaders or want to be leaders, because then we can step up and lead. The question is, are you going to lead them to the promised land, or are you going to lead them off a cliff? That's your choice as a leader. Nobody else can make that for you. And when you do lead them off the cliff, you can't point to the sheep and say it's their fault. Okay? You have to lead. And leadership is about taking responsibility for what you do. It's about saying, that's where I'm going to go. If y'all want to follow me, that's fine. You know, I'm gone. And understanding that if people do follow you, you have a responsibility to those people because they are following you. And you have a responsibility to be the best leader that you can possibly be. That means that you have accountability, that when you get knocked down, you don't blame it on somebody else. You simply say, hey, I got knocked down. You stand up, you dust yourself off, go, we're still going that way, and you go. And until you figure out that that's not the way you need to go, then you go in another way, another direction. You do the things you need to do as a leader because that's what leadership is all about. You stand up and you be accounted for. If you do that as a leader, if you show that you believe in yourself, that you believe in your abilities as a person, you believe in your abilities as a leader, as a professional, that you believe in the decisions that you're making, people will believe in you. People will follow you. You can get named a CEO of a company, that doesn't make you a leader. It does not. You can get named a manager. You know what you are? You're a manager. You're not a leader, you're a manager. Leadership is earned. Leadership is something you go out and you do, and people see it, and people understand that you believe in your abilities and what you can do. Leadership is about doing all the things that are above that on this list, and the one that's fixing to follow. That's what leadership is. If you can do those things,